welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to a live Manchester United news, transfer news and general update show. And I tell you what, it's going to be a long international break. We've lost 3-0 to Liverpool on Sunday. We've got 2 weeks to mope over it, 2 weeks of leaks, 2 weeks of stories, 2 weeks of this, 2 weeks of that, 2 weeks of media drama. But I have to say, I like a lot of the stories coming out of today. People do say, is it a bit of like a PR spin because we've lost? No, I think it's just good, genuine reports about the academy and Ineos' plans for the academy. We obviously had Omar Brada and Dan Ashworth speak out earlier. Kone is seen as a first-team signing. Wilcox is watching Biancheri. Man United have plans to integrate more academy players into the sort of team. You know, get bigger players out. Casemiro to Turkey not being ruled out. Ericsson exit has been ruled out this summer, but expected to go in January. Ineos want the big wage players out. They're willing to bring through sort of academy stars in place. They've got a plan for Kone. They've got a plan for Biancheri, Lacey, a lot of interesting young talent at United. And there's a lot of interesting stories going about in the world of sort of Manchester United today, not only on just like Ineos' plans and potential changes, but I think on the future of the club and the direction it's going as well, and the interest, I think, in young players, which I really like. We'll talk about Ten Hag's future. Apparently, he's not actually rated internally, is one sort of suggestion being made as well. And also a little bit of updates on injuries. You know, Rasmus Hojlund and Lenny Yoro expected back sooner. I may cover that more in a short video as well, but we've got some updates on the injury front. So, guys, please do hit that like button if you have not already. And, of course, do go ahead and subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new. I am currently just 8 subscribers away from 92,000 subscribers. We're on 91,992. We're so close to 92k, which puts us 20% towards the 90k to 100k target. We're in that final stretch for 100,000 subscribers, but let's get into the news. Let's get into the stories. But Fred hitting hat-tricks in the Turkish league. Maybe Casemiro should be going there as well. There is rumours about Tuchel to United, but the reason I've not bothered to cover the Tuchel stories in this video and in other lives is it is literally Ten Hag will not be sacked until November at the earliest. Ineos will give Ten Hag to November at the earliest. He could turn it around. There's about 10 games between now and then before they're even going to consider sacking him. Ineos. So there's no point talking about Tuchel because we could win 9 of our next 10 games and be really happy. I don't think we will, but you know, no point talking about something that, you know, is a bit away as well. Ineos brought in a number of Erik ten Hag former players. Surely he isn't under imminent threat. Exactly. So that's why I'm not really interested in talking in the sort of news as well. But Ornstein has confirmed one exit. Exclusive. Manchester United Deputy Director of Football Andy Boyle to leave the club, who joined Manchester United in 2022 to help improve the men's, women and academy. Greater influence after Murta exit, heavily involved in the transfer window, highly regarded across the industry. So we've had Murta leave, we've had Arnold leave, we've had people like Cliff Batty leave, we've had people that we have not even heard of that were heavily involved in Manchester United leave, and now Andy Boyle is leaving the club. And when I say Ineos are stripping the club from top to bottom, they are. You know, Mitchell van der Gaard's gone, Steve McLaren's gone, you know, everybody is leaving Manchester United. The only thing that remains is Ten Hag in the sort of the world of staff. A bunch of players are gone. Ineos want to make Manchester United their own, and Ineos, you know, and whether this guy was good or bad, I like that they want to stamp their thing on it and you know, completely just refresh United. I mean, over 300 people have lost their jobs, which isn't good. But at the end of the day, it was because the Glazers were overemploying people for jobs that they didn't really need and were using up United's expenses. And, you know, small things like Ineos sacking 300 employees and actually, you know, doing, you know, a cost evaluation sort of, you know, look at the club and, you know, sending out emails disappointed in the staff that, you know, are not doing the work, not pulling their weight to make sure that the players are in an environment where all the staff are pulling their weight so it reflects on the players. Those small things is a good impact from Ineos. Now, Ornstein said that Andy Boyle was heavily involved in the recent summer window that saw Man United sign Xerxes, Lenny Yoro, Matthias de Ligt, Managerial and Ugarte, which I think is all really good signings. And we managed to offload Greenwood and McTominay, pure FFP profit, get Sancho out the door. And, you know, we offloaded Wan-Bissaka for more money than we signed Managerial for. So, again, a good bit of business there from United. You know, there is a lot of positives about the window and sort of the way that United are going. And I do like that we're just having a complete clear out. And I'm not going to pretend that I knew a lot about Andy Boyle and exactly what he does. I don't. I really don't. But I think it's just the fact that, you know, we're clearing out stuff, we're making changes and all of that as well. Thank you very much, Steve, for the chat here. Alice works her socks off, deserves every success and reward she succeeds. I do appreciate comments like that. Means a lot as well. David says, you know, on the road to 92k, let's go. We are on that road to 92k as well, so please do subscribe if you are new. But I want to get more into the academy. I want to get more into a couple other conversation points. Thank you very much for the super sticker there as well, Stephen. Appreciate it as well. I don't need a GoFundMe. Trust me. But I do appreciate the nice comments as well. I have to hope the new signings hit the ground running. No signing is guaranteed to thrive in a Man United kit. Yeah, with the environment of Manchester United, with the structure, with Ten Hag's tactical setup, it makes it difficult for new signings to hit the ground running at United. And I don't like how certain Ten Hag tactics, I don't think he's getting the best out of some of our players. So I do agree. I feel like we need the new signings to hit the ground running, but I do think Ten Hag's going to need to make some changes to the system if we are to get the best out of the players. And INEOS have made it clear that this is what they want at United. These are the signings they want, and they are backing Ten Hag. They are going to give him time, but he needs to show results. He needs to show that he's getting the best out of players, and I think that's the one thing where Rashford hasn't had a shot this season. Bruno hasn't completed a through ball this season. People always talk about Rashford and Bruno being the problem, but the minute Rashford and Bruno are bad, this team can do nothing because no one gets goals like Rashford gets goals and no one creates like Bruno creates. Now, Rashford and Bruno were atrocious last game, but what I'm going to say is, people always go, Rashford and Bruno, they're the problem. And we should be in a position where if Bruno's bad, we can drop him. And when Rashford's bad, we can drop him. I think we're in a somewhat position now with Garnacho and Ahmed that we can drop Rashford if he's bad, because before that, it was Anthony for Rashford. And it was like, well, a bad Rashford or Anthony, who's going to do a better job? If you drop Bruno, it's Mason Mount. Mason Mount's not about. If you drop Bruno, it's Eriksen. I think United are in a position where they can't drop Bruno and they can't drop Rashford because there's no one there to replace them. You could play Ahmad in the 10, but then you'd have to play Anthony and Garnacho out wide if you wanted to drop them both. And I'm not saying that we need to drop Bruno and Rashford. I think Bruno can keep his place. He was poor last game, but Bruno, I think for me, in my opinion, was our best player. I love Bruno. I like Rashford. I believe there's a player there, but yeah, Ahmad and Garnacho should probably be starting on the wings. Although, to be fair, Garnacho does look better off the bench, and I didn't think that Rashford was bad versus Liverpool one bit, to be honest, despite reports. But I do think United, we rely very heavily on Bruno and Rashford. So the minute Rashford's bad, we get a lot worse. The minute Bruno's bad, we get a lot worse. Bruno hasn't played a through ball this season. Rashford hasn't had a shot, and you wonder why our attack is drying up a bit. And Ten Hag sort of relied on Bruno creating something and Rashford having a purple patch of goals. And I feel like since that's not happening this season, the attack is dead. We've underperformed our XG the most of any team. We scored 2 goals. Only Southampton has scored less goals. Luckily, we do play Southampton next, which hopefully could be a nice opportunity to get some confidence in. I'd like a 4-0 win, Hojlund coming back off the bench, getting a goal, Ahmad getting a goal, and probably Rashford getting 2 for confidence, couple assists for Bruno, Xerxes, Garnacho. Be nice stuff, but we aren't 100% performing to our best ability as well. Garnacho should not be reduced back to bench, but I agree that right now Garnacho should start. But I just think when he comes off the bench, he makes such an impact. But I think he deserves to start over Rashford. Now let's talk about Ten Hag and his future, because I feel like this is a bit of a nonsense report from the Mail, but I want to get into it. I want to talk about it. I want your guys' opinion on this. This is a report from the Mail. The view is that INEOS have not kept Ten Hag and built a new system around him just to wield the axe at the first sign of trouble. Equally, however, there is an acceptance that poor results will not be allowed to continue indefinitely. So it's basically one of those reports that contradicts himself. But what they're saying by the Mail is that INEOS aren't going to sack Ten Hag anytime soon, but they this cannot continue indefinitely. I think what the Mail is trying to say, like the report we read out in this morning's video, is we could lose 3 of our next 4 games. Ten Hag isn't going to be sacked. But if we get to December and this form continues, he could be sacked. I think it's very much Ten Hag's got to December. He's got October and November to turn it around. We're not going to sack him in October. He's got to December. That's how I read this sort of story on Ten Hag's future and what that might be as well. People are putting pressure on Ruud van Nistelrooy. Well, I think Ruud van Nistelrooy's, been training them well. I think Hojlund will thrive under Van Nistelrooy. And Hojlund, the 10 minutes he played in pre-season was an absolute monster. Was it against Arsenal? Just absolute monster. So I'm excited for Hojlund to return, because I do think that Hojlund would have buried those Xerxes chances. Xerxes is a more technical player than Hojlund, and will get more involved and get more assists and create more chances, although we're not utilising Xerxes in his best role yet because we're in this 4-2-4. Hojlund is very much someone that's more of a clinical scorer. He'll see less of the ball, but it's more of a goal scorer. Hojlund has more similarities to Haaland. Xerxes has more similarities to a Firmino, a João Pedro, and Matheus Cunha. So I am excited for Hojlund to be back, because I just think it's going to be a big game for Hojlund as well. It's only 3 games, yes, but we lost. But again, read the stats on the Liverpool game. The stats weren't that bad on the Liverpool game. You know, we had 3 big chances to their 4. You know, our XG was a bit lower than theirs, but I did watch the Liverpool game with my eyes, and Liverpool dominated that midfield, and that midfield is a problem at United as well. Alice, you think Onana's one of the problems? He needs to step up for sure, but I think we've got so many problems that, for me, I'm not that bothered about talking about Onana. I'm not that bothered about talking about Rashford, because I just think the ultimate problem is the midfield, and that isn't on the individuals in midfield, that is on the tactical approach in midfield. And I don't think that Ten Hag is getting the best out of our players and using them in their best roles. And I do think the midfield is a bit of a problem as well. I do think we're not scoring goals. The attack isn't looking particularly convincing. There's a lot of issues. Thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Alice. Just keep up the good work. Always appreciate that. Thank you very much for the super chat as well. This is the start of the process. Striker needs goals, and hopefully we get the goals going. Said, being a Liverpool fan, I absolutely love United's downfall, but what exactly is wrong with United? I feel you had a decent window on paper. The team is not too bad too. Is Eric Ten Hag the problem? I think there's a mixture of things. I think in the Liverpool game, what was showed was how much fitter the Liverpool players were. You know, Maino's not a runner. He's a technical player that if you want him to succeed, you need runners around him, which is why a lot of people thought Max Weaver and Amadou Onana would be a good partner for Maino. Casemiro's not a runner. And Bruno is a runner, but Bruno, now we're playing 4-2-4, has to stay really high up the pitch. So we've got no runners in midfield, whereas I think Liverpool had Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberch. All 3 of them are runners, particularly Szoboszlai and McAllister. They can run twice the distance Casemiro, it feels like. And I think that caused us problems, the energy in midfield. It wasn't... I think Liverpool used the energy, their legs, that they were fitter than United, physically better and athletically better than United, to swarm us, and also knew that Casemiro was being used in build-up and that is not his strength, and pushed us off the ball. And I think that, you know, the Liverpool, you know, we weren't bad versus Fulham. We won the game we deserved to win. When we lost to Brighton, I was actually quite happy with the performance versus Brighton, but the performance versus Liverpool was bad and we got swarmed. And I think elements of it is Ten Hag is not getting the best out of some of our players. I don't think he's utilising the system to our strengths. I don't like this 4-2-4. I don't think it's working, because now Bruno's more high up and he's not getting as much of the ball to make impact on it. I think there's a number of things that I don't really like about this sort of 4-2-4 that we're doing, and I think that Liverpool won because they were fitter than us, and that Arne Slot got his tactics spot on, but Ten Hag got a lot of it wrong as well. I think there's elements of the new players, but look, Hojlund, our strongest 11 is Hojlund, probably I'd say right now Garnacho and Ahmad on the wings, but I think if Rashford gets back to his best, it probably would be Rashford and Ahmad, because Garnacho's amazing off the bench. In the 10 role, it'd be Bruno with probably Maino and Ugarte behind him. You're looking Delo at right back, although Mazraoui's been very good. Shaw at left back, but right now I'd probably put Delo left back and Mazraoui right back. We've probably De Ligt and Martinez at the back and Onana in goal. Obviously, the back four hasn't played together. It'd be interesting to see what we do when our strongest lineup comes together. But, I mean, look, every single time we've conceded a goal, it's from a stupid mistake. That Ten Hag isn't coaching those mistakes, but Ten Hag's system, when we make those mistakes in midfield, mean that it's harder for us to get back, because there's so many players committing forward that it's easier for us to concede when we make those mistakes. It's a bit of individual errors. It's a bit of us not having players that are fit enough or technically good enough. And I think it's Ten Hag misprofiling players. Shouldn't be using Casemiro in build up. Shouldn't be using Maino as a runner. You know, I think it's a mixture of many problems at United at the moment as well. Bruno hasn't had a free ball this season. He played 2 in the first game in the false 9 position. When you Google his statistics, it says he hasn't made any. I mean, I think he has, but it just when I Googled his statistics, it said that he hadn't made a free ball yet, which was a little bit of concern as well. Garnacho made many impacts late in matches last term, even when starting. His energy is unreal. I agree with that as well. Man United don't have the mentality. Do you know what I do worry about is I felt that when we went 2-0 down to Liverpool, the heads dropped. It was like 7-0. We went 2-0 down. Because you know the 7-0 game to Liverpool, we were 1-0 down at half-time, and we actually played all right in that first half. Like, if you go back to 7-0, we played pretty well in the first half. We went 1-0 down. We all thought we were going to get back in the game. We were all quite happy with the first half, despite being 1-0 down. And then we came out in the second half, we went 2-0 down, and then we just mentally crashed, and they scored 7. I did see us mentally crash. Szoboszlai could have made it 4-0, and it wasn't particularly good at all. Biggest problem with United has always been the sideways transfers, 10 years of it, and it's only this summer we've actually made big progress squad-wise. Even Ten Hag's first 2 seasons would have been miles better under Ineos, I agree. Didn't need to spend that much money on Anthony. Should have got someone younger than Casemiro. I agree. I think Eriksen had a good first season, was worth it on 3. Malacia, you can't really blame. There was nothing wrong with that signing. He just got injured. It was good value for money. Martinez was obviously a good signing. Mount, I tried to be positive about the signing, but I think we all said, is it really what we need? Hojlund's a positive signing. Onana, we maybe overspent on. So yeah, when you look at Ten Hag's window, I think this is the first time that there's players coming in this window for Ten Hag that you're like, okay, this could be a good signing. This can be good impact. So actually, that now Ten Hag's had what we would call a good window, it'll be interesting to see how we do as well. Garnacho is better coming off from the bench for now. He can't help the team control the game. Ahmad is better at doing that. I think that's part of Garnacho's game he needs to improve, of course. But Garnacho's 19. There's nothing wrong with him, having that elements of his game. I think Garnacho's a great player. I love Garnacho. I think he can start. He's got the legs. He's got the energy. But I do think he's such an impact off the bench as well. Thank you very much, JGS, for the super chat. Really appreciate the super chat from you. Again, appreciate the support. Alice, your content is top class. I only fear for your health supporting United. Keep up the good work. Come on, you Spurs. Oh, I didn't know you're a Spurs fan. Now, I'm only winding you up, but thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that as well. Why aren't we playing a high line? Well, because we just get caught out with the lack of recovery pace. The thing that annoys me is there's a massive space and a massive line between our defence and midfield. So when we lose the ball in midfield, the defence is exposed. So I do think the defence needs to, play a high line as well. I agree, but we just don't seem to be doing that. Now, I want to get into the Casemiro news, and then I want to talk a little bit about the academy and plans going forward, the United Academy, and a few interesting stories going about as well. So it was said, Casemiro to Turkey in the coming weeks can't be ruled out. Galatasaray have interest in a possible loan deal. Turkish window remains open until mid-September. Deal difficult due to Casemiro's high wages. So, Victor Osimhen has gone to Turkey, which I thought was absolutely crazy because he was so close to going to Chelsea. I feel like he thought Chelsea were just going to up the wages and get the deal done. They didn't. He can't stay at Napoli, so he's going to Turkey. Now, if I'm going to give you my 100% honest opinion, I don't think Casemiro is going anywhere, like I don't think Eriksen's going anywhere. I think Ineos want to offload Casemiro, but now that they can't replace him because there's only free agents in the market, I think if an offer came in for Casemiro, they wouldn't sell him because I know they're probably unable to replace him. If you know what I mean. So I think while teams are looking at Casemiro, why Ineos want Casemiro gone and why Casemiro's exit cannot be ruled out, Galatasaray have interest. I just think that unless Turkey come in with 30 million, which Turkish clubs don't have, Man United won't sell Casemiro. I think Man United are open to selling Casemiro in January. Man United have made it very clear because they don't want Rabiot, Eriksen cannot go because they're lacking depth in that sort of 8 department in midfield. We really are lacking depth, particularly with Mount's injury record and Somne going. So I think in January, Eriksen is up for sale. Casemiro is up for sale and Ineos will have a look at the midfield market. I believe in January, if the left backs can't stay fit, we make a move. But apparently we're waiting till summer. We like Robinson, we like Aït-Nouri, we like Loco, we like Kirkes. There are 4 left back targets that we're going to wait for in summer. But come January, Casemiro could leave if an offer comes in. They want Casemiro gone. Like Ineos wanted Casemiro gone in summer. They wanted him to go to Saudi and they wanted to sign 2 midfielders because they wanted Casemiro and McTominay out. That would have brought in the funds to bring in 2 midfielders. They also wanted them to bring in Eriksen out, but they weren't going to bring in the funds. They wanted to bring in 2 midfielders. Now, they only brought in 1. So I do think there's a definite possibility of us signing a midfielder in the January window and Casemiro and Eriksen going there. And obviously, there's a couple of weeks left of the foreign transfer window. But as said, I just do not see it happening. I do not see Casemiro going to Turkey because we cannot replace him unless we get a free agent, and Ineos don't like the free agents on the market as well. If they couldn't sell Casemiro all summer, I can't see it being easy in January, and I agree, but it's just maybe the Saudi clubs or the Turkish clubs come in for him as well. I think, to be fair, Casemiro is struggling. I actually thought he was good versus Fulham. I thought he was all right versus Brighton, and I thought he was good in the Community Shield versus Man City. I think Casemiro's recent performances have been a lot better, but I do think they'll look to offload him. They'll be open to opportunities in January, but I think it's a next summer thing, if we're going to be honest. I think Eriksen could more likely go in January, particularly because he's a free agent, and this is United's last chance to cash in on him as well, and there could be a team that's sort of desperate for a player like Eriksen to transform their season as well. Vinyl says, we have a big void in midfield. We don't have many options. Casemiro is too old and Kobe's too young. Burning out Ugarte will be under pressure to perform. We need 1 more midfielder. I agree. I think we need a 1 more midfielder. I also felt we probably needed another left back. My biggest fear of Ugarte is that he's thrown in a system that exposes him like it's exposed. Because look, Casemiro has been bad, but the system doesn't help him. And fans turn on Ugarte because he's not super impressive in the first couple of games and actually just don't realise that the system is making it impossible for a number 6 at the moment, particularly because Ugarte is not naturally good in build-up and Ten Hag's now starting to use the number 6 in build-up as well. Let's continue into the next story. It was said that Rasmus Hojlund has been working around the clock to get himself back for selection. Hojlund is expected back after the international break. Mount is expected back after the international break. And Yoro is expected back in October. So good signs there. But I want to talk about the academy. Now, I think one aspect of United that's exciting is the academy. The first team, it can be a bit depressing at times. There's no beating around the bush when it comes to the first team and stuff like that. It can be a little bit dead at times. What am I saying? Dead times. It can be a bit negative at times. When it comes to the first team, it's a bit negative at the moment because we've lost to Liverpool, we've lost to Brighton. That's what I'm trying to say. The first team is a bit at the moment. I like the first team. I believe in the first team. I believe in a lot of our players. I believe we can turn the season around. But I think one area of United that's always exciting is the academy because they just seem to be consistently good. We seem to have so many consistently good talents going through. A lot is going on. So I want to talk about the academy and some of the academy plans going forward as well. Ten Hag has to stop reverting to such open tactics. We've always looked better, tight compact during his tenure. Absolutely agree with what Alex is saying here. To solidify midfield, we should play Ugarte, Collier and Maynard at 10, much more solid without Bruno and Kaz. I get what you're saying, but we will be a much worse team without Bruno Fernandes. But I get what you're saying as well. Where is Amos? I'm surprised Amos wasn't on the bench considering there was no fullback on the bench. I'm surprised that Ten Hag is even putting him on the bench, but maybe Ten Hag just doesn't view him as physically ready. But in regards to the academy, this was said. United are still awaiting Premier League and FA approval for Obi Martin, Lascelles and James Overy. So James Overy was signed from Australia, fullback, right back. Lascelles was a winger that's come from Crystal Palace. And Obi Martin is obviously the striker that we signed from Arsenal that Arsenal were crying about. Now, interestingly, we signed a few players last summer. So they're the players we signed this summer to go into the academy, but who are the players we signed last summer? Last summer, we signed Biancheri and we signed Harry Amos, and we signed the Fletcher twins last summer. Now, Harry Amos thrived last summer, the Fletcher twins thrived last summer, and Biancheri looked good. So far this season, Biancheri has been mint. Obi Martin might not have that striker position because Biancheri's been unbelievable. It was said Jason Wilcox is among those to have kept a close eye on Biancheri. The United executive was in attendance to see Biancheri score twice in the under-18s final league game of the season. The name on everyone's lips right now at Carrington is Gabriel Biancheri. Coaches are excited about his potential. Jason Wilcox, Academy Director of Manchester City, a brilliant eye for young talent. Carrington, the best academy in the world. Vival and Wilcox signing more talented players to go into Carrington. And then Ashworth focusing on the academy. And then you look at it, young striker, Ruud van Nistelrooy is here. Biancheri, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Jason Wilcox, development. The future is bright for Manchester United and the future is bright for a lot of Manchester United's young stars. And Biancheri, I think, is one of the brightest young stars that we have coming through at the moment. And I want to actually get something up on my screen before I get into the next story and I talk about Kone. But it has been said that United are having, are focused on Biancheri. He's a player that they really like, and they want to fast track some of the youth players into the first team, which could be Biancheri and Kone. So let me get into this tweet here that I put out from earlier today, people. So this is what I said earlier today. Let me do that here. Manchester United have big plans for the academy this year, with Wilcox closely monitoring Biancheri, who has already scored 5 goals this season in 4 games, including goals against both City and Liverpool. Also got a brace versus Leicester, I believe, as well. Kone is being integrated into the Manchester setup, while Obi Martin, Lascelles and Ovie are awaiting FA approval. Last season, Man United's under-18s won the league. Talents like Harry Amos were among those who shone, but Jack Fletcher, JC Fitzgerald, Mantanto, Ibrahimov, Shea Lacey, Ennis, Wheatley and Williams are all ones to watch as well. And I haven't even named 5 other players I think are absolutely mint, but we're bringing in these really talented players into our academy. We signed some really talented players for our academy last summer, and we've got all these talents up in our academy as well, and some of them are thriving absolutely, like Biancheri. So it's really exciting to see what's going on with the academy, the under-18s, the direction it's going at Manchester United. I think a lot of positives in terms of where Manchester United are at in regards to the academy as well. Omar Barada, bang on again. Yeah, Omar Barada's got big plans for the academy as well. So we'll get into that in a second. What's going on with Obi Martin? Just got to get FA approval. I think Arsenal are trying to make it difficult because they're salty as well. The best academy in the world is La Masia. I agree. The best academy in England is Carrington, but the best academy in the world is, of course, Barcelona's academy. That is a different level. You know, you look at Yamal, you look at, I mean, Pedri wasn't Barcelona academy, but Gavi was. That centre-back, what's he called? Who's this? Kubasi, what's he called? That centre-back looked good. They've got some ballers as well. Totally agree with you with Casemiro. He was good in the matches prior to Liverpool, and letting him go now will impact the depth of midfield. Yeah, as poor as he was versus Liverpool, you can't let him go now. He was good in the opening matches. We've got to hope that Liverpool's an off game because the opposition particularly targeted Casemiro, and Liverpool just targeted all of Casemiro's weaknesses, and we set up exploiting all of Casemiro's weaknesses. So hopefully that's something that we can work around as well. Omar knows how to sort the club. It's a process. I agree. I think you've got to remember that, look, you know, it's not about where we're going to be in 6 months' time. It's not about where we're going to be in a year's time. It's about where we're going to be in 3 years' time. But this 3-year project, unlike the last few 3-year projects, have the right people running the club. This 3-year project doesn't have, you know, Arnold spending 85 million on Anthony and over 60 million on a 30-year-old Casemiro. This 3-year project has Ineos. It has Dan Ashworth, who, you know, had Arnold been here or had Mertens been here, McTominay would have stayed and we wouldn't have signed Ugarte, and we would have gone into this season with Casemiro as our only DM, saying, do we pay McTominay deeper? Do we pay Collier deeper? With Ineos, they said, no, you've got to sell McTominay to get Ugarte in because you need a DM as well. Apparently, Osimhen has a break clause in his January loan and has asked Napoli to reduce his release clause to 60 million. Would you buy him in January? Yes and no. I wouldn't buy him in January because I believe in Hojlund, I believe in Xerxes, and I also believe in Osimhen. We need to he scores a lot of headers, and we don't really utilise that in our game. He is better suited to Chelsea than us. I'm going to be totally honest. So I wouldn't go with Osimhen because I don't think we should be spending 60 million on another striker. Unless Xerxes and Rasmus look really poor this season, maybe in the summer we do that. I believe money needs to go on another midfielder that can play as a 6 and 8, a hybrid type player, which is a shame we didn't go for Matt Sweefer or Amadou Onana or even Yusuf Fofana, to be honest, because I felt we could have needed one of those, left back and then potentially winger. I just think for me, another winger, unless because I just don't believe Anthony's going to become good and Rashford just looks dead of confidence. Another winger, another midfielder and a left back is more of a priority than Victor Osimhen because I fully believe in Xerxes and I fully believe in Hojlund as well. Biancheri is our player as well. Thank you very much, James, for the super chat. Really appreciate the super chat. I actually think United only need a few tweaks. Back four against Elpo are decent. Ugarte comes in with Collier next to him. Maino is 10. Xerxes up top will bang goals. Drop Bruno up the content. Big up the content. Keep up the content. Thank you very much, James, for the super chat. I appreciate that. I just feel like dropping Bruno would make us worse. I don't agree with dropping Bruno, but I agree with everything else you said. Like, versus Liverpool, our back four wasn't bad. Like, De Ligt had a good game versus Liverpool. We conceded 3 goals, but De Ligt had a good game. Martinez didn't have his best game. He could have done better for the third goal. Oh, was it the second goal? Mazraoui was out of position once, but he was all right. Delo was all right. The reason we were bad in the Liverpool game was 3 errors in midfield and the tactics left the defence completely wide open, making it difficult for the defence. I don't think De Ligt had a bad game. I think our back four, actually is quite solid when they look at the players we have. Ugarte is going to improve us. Collier could bring much needed legs into midfield. For games like Liverpool, we need to be athletically better. But I do think Ugarte, Maino, Bruno should be able to do the job. Back forward gel with playing with each other. Xerxes, when he gets a bit of confidence and used to the physical levels of the Premier League, will grow. If we can get Rashford back in form, great. If not, we've got Garnacho and Allen on the wings, who will be inconsistent because of age, but they're good players. And then you look at the squad and you say, well, we might need another winger depending on the form of Rashford and Anthony. And even if they do get better, you probably just want another winger for the sake of it. We probably need a left back. And then another body in midfield to, be like a Matt Sweefer, Amadou Onana type player that can come in and play as a 6, play as an 8. I think if Casemiro and Eriksen leave, potentially we need another number 8 and we need a backup number 6 for Ugarte, depending on how Collier does this season and how much we rate him as well. But thank you very much for the super chat. I agree with majority of your points there as well. Do you think Man United will be back? Look, this season I predicted us to finish 5th or 6th. And I think this season, for me, isn't necessarily about where we finish in the league. Obviously, you don't want to be 10th. The season for me is, I would love to be in the Champions League next year. I think it's really important we get in the Champions League next year because 2 years out of the Champions League is not going to put Manchester United in a good position financially. But this season for me and this summer for me is showing progress, showing a system, showing that the players are playing well and Ten Hag's getting the best out of the players and we're playing sustainable style of football, because if you're playing sustainable football, the results will eventually come, but we have to get elements of the results as well. I do want to dive into some more stories. So I thought this was quite interesting, and this is on Sekou Kone, who we've just signed for the academy, a really talented DM that United do actually kind of want to fast track into the first team. So it was said here, in the past week, a dinner was rearranged with some academy players to help Sekou Kone form a friendship group, while it has been arranged for him to live with house parents to ensure he doesn't find himself isolated in a new country. So Man United know, bringing in a new player from abroad, you've got to really work on making sure they fit in, because Garnacho's first year in United Academy wasn't his best year. I think it was about him learning English and settling in. Garnacho's second year in United Academy is when we won the Youth Cup and when he managed to break into the first team. So United know that first year in a new country can be difficult. It is about settling them in. He said there is a feeling that Sekou Kone, who was pursued by a number of clubs this summer, will be fast-tracked up the ranks once he is bedded into life in England. But for now, he will bounce between academy sides. So they want to fast-track him into the first team. They want to get him involved in the setup. You never know. By the end of the season, he could replace Casemiro. Like, you know, he's that highly rated by so many top clubs. You know, 18, he could do a main and jump in and replace Casemiro and beat Collier to that position. You know, it's not a player that I knew much about, but apparently one of the most highest rated DMs in football out there as well. So Man United looking to fast track players in. Another thing Man United are trying to do is change the academy policy. So if academy players don't quite make it, like City, like Chelsea, we can at least make a bit of money for our academy players. Barada said this, we have also tried to put in place certain policies to protect us in the future, so we have the ability to buy back a player. Willy Kambala, if he does really well, then have the ability to bring him back. And we have done that again with lots of other young players. So what Barada is saying is, we're putting certain policies in place to protect us, so if a young player goes away and does well, we can buy him back. Willy Kambala, buyback clause. Alvaro Fernandez buyback clause. I don't know if we've got one in Zidane, but I know we've got one in Maxi Odelei. United is selling some of the academy players that they know they can't give minutes to. This, you know, every year we might have 10 really talented academy players, but there's only 2 that potentially could get first team minutes. This year it's Amas and Collier. Last year, Maino and Garnacho. There's only 2 that Ten Hag can give a little bit of minutes to here and there, depending on injuries, depending on how good they are when they get the minutes. That I think, you know, there's loads of other academy players that are really good players that could be Premier League level players, but, you know, we can't get them the minutes now, or they're just not quite ready now, so that if we sell them and they're good, we can buy them back and we can make money off them. But one thing I do want to do is be able to sell academy players for 30 million. Like City sold Cole Palmer for 45 million, and what a signing that's been for Chelsea. But let's be honest, when City first sold him for 45 million, we were all thinking, what do you mean 45 million? You know, Lewis Hall had gone to Newcastle for what? 35 million quid. Looks like a good player, but you just see the prices that City and Chelsea academy players are going for, and that's something I hope that Manchester United can definitely up as well. I'd love to see Kambala come back one day. I'm a massive fan of Kambala, if I'm going to be honest as well. Wilcox Brada, glad going to train to see the mentality of the right player, Amad Diallo, Garnacho, De Ligt, Martinez, 100%. Looking at it, it will take a special progression to buy any of them back. We are buying club, and our academy is already stacked with talent as well. 100% agree as well. So let's continue on into some next stories. It was said by Chris Wheeler that Ratcliffe is keeping a video diary since he assumed sporting control, and he has hired former Times chief sports writer Matt Dickinson to chronicle events in a book. United will also turn into a TV documentary. United could also turn into a TV documentary. So there's talk of United doing a TV documentary, a little bit like Arsenal did, a little bit like Sunderland did. Make a bit of extra cash on a book. The Ineos takeover changes going on 3 years in the making, and I think that would be really interesting to watch. But last but not least, I do want to talk about Ugarte and some other random facts as well coming in. But Manuel Ugarte has joined United. He's given his first interview. He's saying he's a player that likes to win the ball. He likes to be off the ball, win the ball back, but he wants to improve on the ball, all-round kind of player. And I would definitely recommend watching Ugarte's first interview as well. Only problem is Rabiot wants Champions League and very high wages. Ineos turned down Rabiot. So Ineos turned down Rabiot because they're not convinced on his attitude and they believe that he only wants the high wages to come to United. So we had an opportunity to offload Ericsson and buy Rabiot this week. We can definitely do that, but it's been confirmed that Ineos are not that interested in Rabiot because of his wage demands. Even though his wage demands are only a little bit more than what Ericsson's on now, they're just not totally convinced on Rabiot and they would rather save those funds to invest in, of course, and probably a midfielder in the summer. I think United could bring one, maybe two midfielders in the summer as well. People are saying a minor mistake overshadowed Kobbie Mainoo's performance against Liverpool. The amount of defensive work he had to do in midfield is insane. Can't believe people are, giving Mainoo stick. And I agree. Look, I don't think Mainoo had his best game because of the mistake. But the defensive work he's been asked to do is absolutely crazy. And Mainoo right now is more suited to that number 6 role than Casemiro, believe it or not. But he did get pushed off the ball a bit. And I thought this was interesting. Kobbie Mainoo can do everything you want from an all-action midfielder, but it doesn't mean he should be asked to do so. He's one of only 2 midfielders in the Premier League that rank in the top 6 for duels 1 second, tackles 1 second, interceptions first, and ball recovery 6. He's only one of 2 players in the Premier League to make 100+ carries and complete 10+ dribbles, while also leading all players in dribble success rate, 83.3%. He is one of only 8 midfielders in the Premier League to attempt 125 passes with a pass accuracy of 89.5%, being one of 3 to have a 93.5% medium and 100% long pass accuracy as well. And it's obvious he's doing it all at once while also being the youngest in every category. And I think the problem with Ten Hag is he's relying on Mainoo to do everything. And Mainoo is a specialist and he's being relied to do everything. And we need to get a partner in for Mainoo so we can really see the elite level player that Kobbie Mainoo is, because he's having to do everything, to do work that isn't to his strengths. He's still doing a job there, but if we want to see the best out of Mainoo, we need that dual. We need someone that it can be an athletic monster. I like the Ugarte signing. I think he works well with Mainoo, but he's not the athletic monster that I thought would be the perfect partner for Mainoo, but I do think it's a good signing and a really good addition to United. But I definitely think that, we have this over sort of reliance on Mainoo as well. Saying Bruno was atrocious last game shows a real lack of understanding of the game. Bruno wasn't good, but Bruno is now playing in a false 9 role where he's being asked to play higher, where he's not getting as much of the ball. Let's be honest, he didn't have a good game versus Liverpool. There was 2 opportunities where he did have the ball and he messed up the pass. I rate Bruno. I don't think he's our best player, but I was not impressed with him versus Liverpool as well. Look how good Kobbie looked next to Rice. Hopefully Ugarte can provide that. Absolutely. That's what we're hoping. Now, Ugarte, in terms of the player he is, has actually been compared most to N'Golo Kante. Ball winner, likes to win the ball back. Not necessarily the best player in build-up, and the only fear is that, there might be a reliance on Ugarte in build-up, but he's so good off the ball that although he's not an athletic freak like Nat Swifa or Amadou Onana, which I think is what, I'd just make his legs a bit longer and him a bit more of a powerhouse, I think he will be a really good partner for Kobbie Mainoo, and I think the level should improve and go up as well if Ten Hag implements the right structure in and around them. Now, Ten Hag did say, I'm not Harry Potter. It could take months for Ugarte to play and build fitness. But considering Ugarte is going on international duty, he's going to play 290 minutes on international duty, started 7 games in Copa America, has been training with PSG. I don't know how, and has only had missed 7 games in his whole career, 2 are through injuries. I don't know how we can say Ugarte could be out for months. Maybe he beds Ugarte in first game back and he comes off the bench. But for me, if in 4 games' time he's not started Ugarte, I think it's a joke. I think Ugarte is ready. I mean, with Casemiro's recent performances, it is time for him to give Ugarte minutes. The only worry is he obviously wanted to keep McTominay and wasn't interested in signing Ugarte, which might mean that Ugarte could get the Amad Diallo treatment to begin with. It's a bit like Ollie when he had Donny van der Beek. He didn't want Donny van der Beek, but the club signed him, and Donny van der Beek just never played under Ollie. I just do feel like with Manuel Ugarte, hopefully it's different because Casemiro has been so bad and Ten Hag may have no choice, but then Anthony was so bad and Amad still wasn't getting minutes. But hopefully, it puts a bit of pressure on Ten Hag to throw Ugarte in there, because Ten Hag looks a little bit resistant to do so. People are saying breaking Tuchel to replace Ten Hag. There's nothing in the Tuchel to replace Ten Hag story yet. Come December time, and we've having bad results, there could be some truth in it. But Ineos aren't going to make any manager decision until we're at the halfway mark of the season. They will give Ten Hag half a season. They want to see what happens with Ugarte. They will give him half a season as well. Alice, who do you think will finish in the top 4? Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and then I think the 4th spot's up for grabs between Villa, United, Newcastle, Tottenham, Chelsea. It's all up for grabs, that 4th spot. I think the top 3 is is nailed on as well. Andy Mitten confirmed Casemiro wasn't happy with the tactics last season. He felt the tactics exposed him last season. Do you agree with that? I do agree with elements of that. I think Casemiro's dropped off and I think he doesn't have the legs. But yes, I think he wasn't helped by the tactics. I think that Ten Hag, isn't helping Casemiro, but Casemiro just looks finished and he needs to do better. You can't completely blame it on the tactics because Kobbie Mainoo has done a lot better job in Casemiro's role than he has. Casemiro has massively dropped off as well. People saying Ugarte can't ace Kante's boots, don't boost, stop the cap. I'm not saying that he's Kante level, but I'm saying if you look at the profile of player he is, if you look at Kante's statistics and the game numbers and the profile of player he was, Ugarte is the same mould and profile of player as Kante, someone that can carry the ball, someone that isn't a specialist in build-up but can retain the ball well, but someone that's very good at winning back the ball and is a dual winner. That is what you've got in Ugarte. That is who Kante is as well. But anyway, people, please hit the like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. We're at the 40-minute mark, so I'm going to wrap up the live show here. But we have hit 92k, so thank you everyone that subscribed. I will be back tomorrow morning with a video and tomorrow evening with a live stream. So thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.